Hohem has done it again, this time with a fold-up gimbal. This is the new Hohem iSteady V3 Ultra, and there isn't really another fold-up gimbal like it. Let's go and sit over here. It's kind of windy today. We've got a bit of a storm coming apparently in a few hours. So let's get this video done before it rains on us. You might have seen some of my videos about the iSteady M7, which is really my personal favorite smartphone gimbal, and it's really the detachable remote which kind of sets it apart from other gimbals. But you know, not everybody wants a big gimbal. Some people want a fold-up gimbal like this, and this is you know, one of the neatest fold-up gimbals around. If you liked the idea of a detachable remote with a touchscreen and a live feed from the AI tracker, then the Hohem iSteady V3 Ultra is probably for you. What we have here is Hohem's flagship foldable gimbal, and like its competitors, the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro and the DJI Osmo Mobile 7P, it has a detachable AI tracker with a little camera right there, and of course it's a fill light as well. But one difference between this one and the others is that Hohem calls this a multi-modal AI tracker. And that basically just means that it can track anything. You can track objects, you can track pets, and you can track people. And you can even track your hands, for example. So if you're doing some creative work and you're wanting to film it for maybe like a TikTok video or an Instagram reel or YouTube, you can get the gimbal to track your hands as they're moving around. That means you can zoom in to show the detail, but you can also move your hands. You don't have to feel like you have to keep your hands all in one place the whole time. So that might be useful if you're someone who does kind of crafts or anything to do with your hands. So this is basically the first foldable gimbal which has a 1.22-inch touchscreen. And like I say, you've got the live feed there, and it's attachable. Very easy. And even when you have it on the gimbal, it's actually pretty easy to use. You can just kind of move your thumb around onto this little panel here, and yeah, it's probably easier to use than like a regular control panel that you get on other gimbals. So what this means is that you can actually see what you're filming in real time up to 10 meters away. So you can look at this and you can see that the tracker's following you, and you can also see kind of roughly where you are in the screen. It's not a perfect sort of representation of the framing, but it gives you an idea. But you can use it to set tracking, and like I say, you can track objects, pets and people. So you could track a car moving, you can track a train going past, you can track your dog running about. Of course, every tracking unit does have limits. So for example, kicking a ball, it's not going to be able to keep up with that. It's too fast a movement, and no other trackers can do that. But you can track someone running, playing football. It's not always going to be able to keep up with them, but most of the time. So the previous version, the V3, also has a detachable remote, but it's much more basic compared to this. This is much more like the M7 detachable remote, just a little bit smaller. So you can swipe left and right. There's two screens full of controls, and there's another settings button, so you tap that and you get a whole menu of other controls. And if you swipe right, then you get the live feed. And the live feed is essentially just what you can see through the camera of the AI tracker. So the V3 Ultra has a max payload of 400 grams. So that's a whole 100 grams up on the V3, which is 300 grams. So you've got some pretty sturdy, strong motors on here. So that's going to help you if you want to add extras and a microphone. So I tested the gimbal with a few different things. It could handle a filter, but it couldn't handle a Sandmark telephoto, and it couldn't handle a Sandmark anamorphic either. They were just too heavy. It's not really about the motors, it's more to do with the balance. So it just kind of makes a pinging noise and then it quits. So we've got a built-in extension rod, and that goes up to 205 millimeters. I think it's a little bit shorter than the others like the Flow 2 Pro and the Osmo Mobile 7P, but it's still useful, and you can get a good distance if you're doing a selfie, which is I think what most people are going to use it for, but you can still use it also for doing crane shots, overhead shots, getting different angles. You know, it's really useful to have that extra extension there. And of course you can just add a monopod on the bottom if you want to get really higher shots or really extend your gimbal out further. And the battery life on it is pretty comparable to other gimbals like the Flow 2 Pro and the Osmo Mobile 7P, but once you start using the AI tracker and the fill light, then you're looking at something more like 4 to 5 hours. Oops, I forgot to use the Hohem mic because, you know, as this is a Hohem video, probably best to use the Hohem mic. And here it is, the Hohem Mic 01. If you haven't seen it, I made a video on it before. But from now on, we're going to use the Hohem Mic 1. Hohem was actually the first to introduce these kind of detachable AI tracking units, you know, back in 2021 with the iSteady V2. So this is their 8th generation AI technology, which they say has been trained on millions of scenes. So this presumably is going to help it to perform better when it's trying to distinguish between the subject and the background for tracking purposes. So you can actually use the AI tracker with any app. So you can use it with the Blackmagic app, you can use it with your native camera app, you could use it with TikTok, you can use it with FaceTime, you know, anything basically. So it's very liberating because you can now use your favorite camera app, or you can use an app that you use for live streaming, for example. No touching. I think I just touched it. Anyway, so it goes either way. Clips into place, 2 little clips there. Pretty sturdy. Very easy to do. And also, actually, if you have an Android, they're usually more limited when it comes to using third-party camera apps. So, like the Home Joy app, for example. So, having the tracker means you can use your native Android camera app. Just like with the previous versions, you do the OK sign to start tracking. You use the palm to stop tracking. And there's also this one, which allows you to reposition yourself within the frame. So, if you don't want to be right in the middle, you can use this. You can also just use the joystick on here and reposition yourself. And because you've got this detachable remote, you can easily just move away from the gimbal and then reposition yourself. So you don't really need to use that gesture anymore. And sometimes maybe you don't want to have to mess about with this little remote and you just want to use gestures instead. But you can actually also turn them off in the app. So, because sometimes people accidentally do the gesture and stop tracking or start tracking when you didn't want them to. So there's touchscreen remote. You can see a live feed coming from the camera. So a live feed that just comes directly from this camera. And so you can see what you're tracking. You can start and stop tracking on the remote. And you can also use the joystick to reposition yourself within the frame. So obviously this is really useful for any kind of solo filmmaking, or if you just want to put yourself in the frame along with your family and your friends. And the touchscreen gives you easy access to a lot of controls. You know, because with most gimbals, on the front here, you're going to get minimal information. But with this, it's kind of much more like using an action camera, when you get all these kind of different settings and controls within this touchscreen. And it's also nicely designed so you can easily and kind of clearly see exactly what your settings are. And it works in, you know, bright light conditions. You can still see exactly what mode you're in and all that kind of stuff. But with other gimbals, you know, you get like a little indicator light. But in bright light conditions, like today, it can be hard to see where exactly that light is or exactly what it's saying. So this is much clearer. So just little things like at the top here, you can see the battery status for both the gimbal and this remote, because this has a little battery in it as well. Then in the middle, we got this sort of AI tracking status. And it's red for not tracking and green for when it is tracking. And we've got a little indicator to show that the Bluetooth is connected, as well as to show that this is connected wirelessly to the gimbal. And the good thing is it's just right here and easy to see. So you don't have to go into the app in the gimbal on your phone and see, you know, things like battery level and stuff. So we've got a button for orientation. We have a mode button. Although there's one difference between this and the M7 is that you don't get a custom mode. Instead, you get a locked mode. But I actually kind of prefer the custom mode, but it's okay. I mean, it obviously makes it simpler. So we've got these big zoom buttons, and that allows you to zoom in and out if you're using the Hohem Joy app. And you know, they're nice to use. Some of the buttons can be a little bit fiddly on gimbals, but this is nice and big, and even with my fat fingers, you know. So if we swipe left on the screen, we've got a button for scenario settings, and we have a button to switch on and off the fill light, as well as control the brightness and the temperature. Again, you can see it all really nice and clearly. In terms of brightness level, it goes up to 110 lux. So obviously you're not going to replace a kind of more serious lighting setup, but in certain situations, if it's just a little bit too dark, you can switch on the fill light, especially for kind of social media work where you're talking to camera. You just add a little bit of extra light and it can, you know, help you out and improve the quality of your video. And we've got another button here which opens up a kind of menu of settings for things like calibration, and there's also motor strength speed and follow speed. And there's also settings here which allow you to customize how the AI tracker works. So the button at the side of the gimbal is basically doing what the trigger does on the gimbal, so you can just use it in exactly the same way. Things like double tap to recenter. You can start and stop tracking with it. Oh, and if you triple press it, just like if you triple press the trigger, it's going to turn the gimbal 180 degrees. So it used to be that only the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro could rotate infinitely, you know, 360 degrees. But now the iSteady V3 Ultra can also do that. So what's this useful for? Well, we can do kind of sweeping cinematic pan shots, and just for anything where you don't want to be restricted by the gimbal, so you can just keep moving. So if you're filming yourself and maybe you're using the tracking, or you're filming someone else, you're not going to be restricted by the gimbal suddenly hitting a stop and then it can't go any further. With the V3 Ultra, you can just keep going round and round. You can keep moving wherever you want and it will keep tracking you. So we have the extendable handle and this roll motor hinge like the V3. One thing I like about this gimbal is that when you put it down, it's kind of flat. So a lot of the gimbals, they are sort of at an angle, like the Hohem gimbals, the recent ones, they come at an angle. And so when you put it down, you have to sort of make sure it's flat. With this, you don't really have to do that. And also when you're using the tripod, and you've got it on a flat surface, to me it makes more sense that this is level, so that when it rotates, it's smoother. Or if it's like this, and it's rotating, it has to sort of rotate this way. For me, that's not as sort of ergonomically as well designed. One thing I do like about this gimbal is when you fold it away, it's, if I can do this right, ta-da! Look at that. So it's really nice and sort of compact, isn't it? Even with the AI tracker attached, that can fit in your bag, in your pocket, whatever. With some of the other gimbals, once you put the AI tracker on, it kind of sticks out at a funny angle. So just the fact that they've thought about this and designed it nice and neatly so everything fits together. It's kind of like, you know, if you bought a car and the spare wheel was sticking out the side, you would probably not buy that car. Here, everything you need, it's all self-contained in this little package. Of course, with the other gimbals, you can remove the tracker and you can remove the magnetic clamp. But the point is, with the V3 Ultra, you don't need to. Oh, it's raining, so probably a good time to finish this video. I do think this is a really excellent fold-up gimbal. It's up there with the Flow 2 Pro and the DJI Osmo Mobile 7P. I recently had a comment from someone saying that they like the Flow 2 Pro, but they just missed the V3 remote control. So if you like the idea of a fold-up gimbal with a remote control that you can detach, and it's got a beautiful touchscreen on it, with all the controls in there, it's so very clear so you can see exactly what you're doing, and it's great for solo filmmaking or just putting yourself in the picture for photos and for videos, family videos, you know, vlogging, social media stuff, anything really. So all in all, I am pretty impressed with the Hohem iSteady V3 Ultra. And actually the other day we're having a chat on Discord about which a gimbal is right for a particular person who was kind of confused by all the different options, and there are a lot of options now. So I do recommend that you head over to the Discord. It's completely free to join, and it's so much easier to share things. Like I can answer your questions and other members can answer your questions. There's like a fun community, everybody's very positive, so I do recommend that you join our Discord. Like I say, it's completely free. And thank you to everybody who bought the book recently. In fact, I've got 2 books now, and the other day they were both in the top 10 for books on video production on Amazon. So that was pretty exciting. So again, thank you all for buying the book, supporting this channel. And that's it from me. So I'll see you in the next video that I see you in. Stay creative.